Well, hey, 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 just going live. A little bit of an announcement and some updates to share. So we'll give it a moment, see if everybody hops on over. Also, hitting up Beatles in the Discord to see if he'd like to join me. So I was just spending some time. I've added several players onto my file, just trying to figure out how to organize some of these rosters. I know I've watched MV and play with some of these, and although they're not set up as like intact teams with all the positions and at bats and stuff and covered to really play against each other, they're just more of placeholders. So I'm just kind of, as I do more, trying to figure out how I can carve them up just to kind of place them on the roster based on their middle year. So I'm going to discuss some of that approach and show off where we are with player creation. And it looks like we've got Can't you read? He's awfully prickly today, Big Clue says. You bet. Trying to get this chat window a little bit smaller. There we go. So I can monitor the chat over here. So welcome, Big Clue. Yeah, and you know what's funny is I can't read. Big Clue. I didn't read it. I was going to go live and then, hey, Envy, I was going to go live and I just happened to see that Legends was streaming and he was kicking off his league, and I've been dying to watch some of those games. So I went over and watched his Mets Expo game. Wow, I've kind of hit a little bit of a milestone here with the players that I've built. And what I'm doing now, and I know MV, and keep it up, MV. I'm enjoying MV, his games he's broadcasting with the players. And one of the things I realized is, and I've got Arnold Hunter, who's also given me some, MV, here comes MV, always, conservative in his estimates, we shall say. But hey, Legends, what happened is Arnold Hunter's been doing a little bit of play testing, gave me some feedback today, and MV's been play testing along with Beatles has a file to play test. So what I realized is none of those teams that I broke down into the 30s or whatever were really set up to be like a complete team to play. So what I've tried to do now as I build more is I've had to break out the increments from just the decades. As I don't really want to go over 40 a roster because then it's too hard to scroll through the players. So for example, now I'm just kind of breaking them up, as you can see, and I'll categorize these a little better. But here's 1930 to 33, and I've already got 23 players total on that team. Really helps too with the bio area when I'm grabbing players and just moving them over. It really helps to be able to look at this and see what base year that they have to be able to make these moves. So that's been easy. Same thing with the 20s are just really full of players. So you'll notice here, just from 1920 to 22, I've got what 30 players on this team just for those 3 years. So I'm going to keep them broken down this way for a while as I build more, um, even though I'm unable to read, Beetle says. And drum roll, please, MV. We're going to see how close to 1,000 we are. This is what I have done so far. And looking back on it, this is March 13th. I think I'm probably 2 months into this. I don't know what the official date was, mid January or sometime when I don't know what happened. Beatles and everybody in the channel were just talking about doing a Negro League project. And I don't know when I dubbed myself or declared or was drafted or volunteered or whatever into it, but I think it's been close to 2 months now. And here's where we're at. Let's look at all players. We are at 401, which may not seem a lot to people like MV. who talks in increments of thousands. But I have to say, it's been a long 400, 401 to be exact. And what I'm doing now is going through the MLE list. I'll pull up that list just so you can see it because I've hopped around, right? I've used the MLE list to go and research as I've scrolled down the war at Seamheads and found interesting players. I'll go grab their information off of, let me pull up that list and we can highlight it. It is such a great resource to be able to work through this project. But I was also building players and spent a lot of time doing my own MLE calculations. But this is a good one. I can scroll through here now and take a look in alphabetical order and just see how many of these. I've created everybody pretty much down through the C's. And what I'm doing now is I'll get to, let's say, where am I at right about here? Where I'm about ready to create Dan Wilson right here. And I've done Dave Malarker. So what I'll do is I'll go through here and just kind of find who haven't I created. Oh, okay, here we go. Let me grab Ernest Duff, for example. And I'll grab his MLEs, drag them over, and then start working on him. So I'm making my way down the batters here on this list to make sure I get everybody I have MLEs for. And then I'll move on to the other significant players that I'm having to hand do some of those calculations for. And then I'm just going to take it and then I'll go back and go kind of position by position. I'm going to save the pictures for last. At least that's my game plan now because I know I'm going to be over 500. Yeah, legends. We see them in our sleep. Yeah, I mean this means nothing to some people, but like this is my where are we at here? This is my master file here where I'll start cranking stuff around. But I've got another sheet just for formulas. This is where I track my when I build a player, I get their bat line, what I know about them. Some of these players we don't have a height or weight on, um, especially as I'm getting down to the average or lesser known players. Fielding information. Let me clean this off now. Like you can see here, I've got Doc Dudley underway. I've already got his games started at certain positions there, but I have not gone and filled that stuff in. But you can see here, I've already got his batting line in right here. The next guy I'll be working on is Donald Reeves. So I've kind of got in queue some of his data to consider which 3 years to use. So just kind of grab a player and go. Yeah, MS Excel junkie on your resume. I know, big clue. And I've learned, and I'm still kind of, I'd say, a novice for sure when it comes to my Excel skills. But then pictures, I haven't done any pictures in a while. I've got Herrera right here, and I don't know. I think it's because when I built him, I'm gonna have to pull him out of there. I think he had like 1 or 2 innings average, and I didn't build him for the 1 or 2 innings. So you can see here my last picture that was put in here was William Ross. So having a lot of fun. Yes, it's a spreadsheet nightmare. I keep cranking at them, but again, with these 401, I've got all photos done for them. The other one thing that's kind of interesting is I don't have. Oh, hold on a second. Beatles is ready to come on in voice chat, so I'm gonna ping him here. Let me call Beatles. Let's get Beatles in here. See if he's got any thoughts or questions. And it's ringing.
Hey, how you doing?
It's the man, the myth, the legend. We have a man of 1,000 voices. That's Aaron Reed. You're just the man of the voice. You're kind of the voice of our group here.
Hey, bud, how are you doing?
Oh, I've been extremely busy with the family, work, and
And 401 players. Good
and
God.
401 players. You're darn right.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So I mean, I've had a. You know what I do? Let me grab my. See what file am I in here? 31323. I'm gonna drag my photos over. Maybe for anybody that doesn't know how to do this, I'll just get select them all,
Yeah,
copy
you
them.
had set me straight on that deal, and I remembered actually. Oh yeah, it's like when you create it, it creates that
Yep.
subfolder, and then I'm like, Remember I said, "Oh, never mind, I figured it out."
Exactly. Player photos. Now, which one we got? 312, 313, 23. Yeah, it's got to be this one here. I don't know why those two placeholder things always show up, but this way, if I click on a player, we can see a good photo for him here.
MV, I see
841
though.
pictures I've done, it says.
I see MV is still being a taskmaster.
Oh, are we paying
I saw
attention
the
to MV
1,000
tonight?
earlier in the chat. What's he smoking?
I thought I already discounted him after his 1,000 comment. Oh yeah, I better. Yeah, he's here. How about MV, by the way, getting out there with broadcasts? Have you listened to those?
I have not yet. No,
Oh my
my
gosh,
my work schedule's been nuts, man.
MV has done I think 3 broadcasts now.
Baseball, not
With
cricket.
no baseball with the Negro League file. He's done some great tests
Oh,
playing some of the files that I sent him a couple weeks ago.
oh, I have
Um,
to hear his dulcet Welsh voice
oh,
then.
it's great, and he's not even trying to hide it. He's not even trying to Americanize anything.
Good, good man. I should quit doing that too, but I don't want to. Oh, I can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to hear it.
MV, yeah, Big Clue says he's getting better and better, and he's just getting comfortable with everything. But what he's doing is it's really cool because he's spending the time to kind of, as I am when I build this, research a little bit of the bios. So he's pulling up some of the player cards and reading the bios, and it's been fun to watch. So a little more inspiration to keep adding players so we can
Absolutely.
do that. So let's see here, 1900 and 1909. That's probably the least amount. Well, I got Valdez with no picture. I probably got a name off on him. Trying to think some of the interesting ones that I've built recently.
I
There's a
was
lot.
curious to ask you, Steve.
Yeah,
So you had like, and the file that I have still has the split decades, and I see you still have one. So
yeah,
was the idea that you had overflow, and so you made two leagues or
I
like
did.
two? Okay, that's why.
My whole approach was, hey, let me just go to about 40 and then move on to another iteration of it, right? Because I thought, if the files get to me too big, they're hard to go through. So let's just keep them at 40 players on there. Then I thought, okay, now that I've got more, instead of having two, like you can see here, this was the second 1940 to 48. But now I think I'm just left with 40 to 43. So I'll probably combine these with this 1940 to 43, which is 31.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Looks like I might have to do a 40 and 41 and a 42 and 43. So as I get more and more, it might just that I have 5 or 2 year increments because I'm going to have enough players to fill them.
It's
So
incredible.
44 to 46. Here's 24 players. Not all that many pitchers. Um, but man, I've done some interesting players here. So I'm gonna pull these up. I don't know if everybody can see them. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit here. Let's go to my batters, right? So here, these are like my last, 20 or so players right here. And been fun people I never knew. What's this? Udi Napier, Archie Ware, a great player. So look at this. Some of these people I'm finding down here that are averaging out, they're decent hitters, right? But a couple of them, Tommy Sampson's over 300, Archie Ware, a 300 hitter. Here's one, Buddy Burbage, a 307. Charlie Spearman, 311, 323, Clarence Scally Smith. So, there's what I would call some hidden gems or under the radar. MV's asking for new studs. MV is doing a ton of research. He's got like a whole list he keeps of potential people to draft just for the upcoming league, whenever that is.
He's been as much of an inspiration to this as Ken was with the Ned McGreevy stuff. MV's been amazing.
Oh, yeah, this has been, I would agree because now that I've been watching him, I'm like, oh gosh, I've got to get in here and just start cranking out some more players. I mean, I just, and I have fun because now I'm doing people that I don't know. Before it was kind of cool to find out more info on Josh Gibson and Page and see what their best years was. Now this is a complete learning experience for me. Here's one
You
too.
know,
This guy, Cando Lopez, right here,
you're gonna
286 hitter.
you're gonna end up right. You're gonna end up being the go-to guy Negro Leagues because of well, you and MV. I mean, just the research you guys are doing. It's incredible. Because I mean, I knew a lot of the usual suspects, and then a lot of the guys that were good. But I'm seeing guys in here I've never heard of at all.
Yeah,
Oof.
I mean, let's see, who do we have here? Anastasio Santaella, Tacho, they call him right here. Well, I've blown it up so big I can't see my, yeah, 270 hitter, So some of these you'll notice, here's Armando Cabanas. Some of these you'll notice, I don't have the best batting average, but it is interesting when you start looking at it in terms of the year they're assigned to, and since everything is geared their way, what am I calling it? The OPS plus is probably just one of the best things within the game to take a peek to see if they're above or under 100, right? 100 being average, because sometimes it's hard to tell because they're assigned to a certain year. So we can pull up a few of these.
So do you think? I mean, I know you're still testing these. Have you? I thought you did it once, but I'm not sure. Would you say one of these teams would be ready for an exhibition against just a major league team that we would have?
Oh yeah,
Because that would be fun, right?
yep,
Just pick one of these teams that you have and put them up against somebody in their same era.
yeah, exactly. And I'm
Since
thinking,
everybody's saying the 1920s are stacked, I mean,
yep,
why not put them up against our test team, the 1929 Philadelphia Athletics?
yeah. I even thought about this morning as I was thinking about breaking these up into more, I guess, smaller slices. I even thought, if I've got a 3 or 5 year slice team here, I could take them against my 5 year slice franchises.
Oh,
That could be
absolutely.
fun too, right? You could let's take a peek here. Here's 1930 to 33. I took everybody off of this team. Yep, this team's blank to be used for something else. So I'm going to just call it team blank. I'll just put team over there. But you can see now that I broke the 30s up a little bit. If we look at the beginning part of that, here they are, 30 to 33. Got 23 players, and you can see that there's some OPS. Let's take a look at OPS here. There's Martin Diego, Judd Wilson, Tom Young. That'd be a fun little slice team.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've got, what is it, 34 to 36, these 3 years. There's Josh Gibson. Yeah, I got another 20 players. Now I don't have them completely right. I think as I build more out, these will become more complete just by sheer numbers as I start to put them in. Um, so looking forward to that. But yeah, I thought, hey, I got to start breaking them down because I was getting 40 plus on each roster. Let me break them down a little bit. Now I can kind of keep building. But yeah, I looked down, I hit, hey, I'm close to 400, and I got to 401 today, and I thought, wow, I think I'm just going to come on and you know my goal was to come on like once a week and just spend an hour or so just chatting up. I get good suggestions and from MV and Big Clue a lot of times on players to build, but I noticed they haven't been sharing as many because I'm so deep into this now. The players that most people are familiar with, they've kind of already suggested to me, or most of them. So now it's just kind of sheer research,
Wow.
but it's a blast. It is a
Oh,
blast doing
yeah.
that. Trying to think
Yeah.
on that list who I could highlight today. If you guys have a little bit of time to highlight some players here.
I mean, for a guy that can't read, you're doing a hell of a job, dude.
Yeah, for a guy that doesn't pay attention enough to read. Um, Here's a
Right?
guy. Let's take a look. He's 1925. This guy should have had a better picture available for him, but let's take a look at his average here. Clarence Smith. This guy is tough.
So
Scally is
MV,
his name.
you're talking about 19th century. So the thing about 19th century is there were still some players in the recognized major leagues in the 19th centuries. So yeah, well, Steve already answered no. So I mean, kind of doing that. I mean, once Moses and Welday or Fleet and Welday Walker right? There was a phasing out of black players in the 19th century. So that really, I mean, they began organizing then really in the 20th century.
Yeah, it's
I
very
mean, you
rare.
could
I mean, the most of the ones you have there, you'll have a little bit of Cuban before then. Hey,
yeah,
Arnold.
Bud Fowler would be from the 19th century, but you'd have to put him, I guess, on your 1900 squad, right? 1900
Yep.
to 1909 or whatever.
I think
Bud
there's a
Fowler.
couple of players I've done that had like 1899 as one of the years, but I might have them assigned to 00 or 01. But this guy here, this Clarence Smith, I'd never heard about him, and I thought, why hadn't I built him already? And I built him today, but I thought this is kind of like a hidden jewel that he's an outfielder, played 12 or 13 years later, managed, but he batted over 320 for his career. And based on
Wow.
his seasons and the formulas, his MLE for the top three came out to 323, and you know, good hitter, 30, good extra base hitter here for the era, and he can field. I mean, he's got look at that, look at all the positions he can play. He can play every position except shortstop, and he's good at the corner outfielder spot. So I thought, where's this guy been?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah, that was a really cool one. Buddy
Never heard of
Burt,
this guy.
Cando Lopez. He's going to be on the 27 squad. So is it the same one? Let's see. Let's take a look at Cando Lopez.
Did you see Todd B's while you're looking? I don't know if you can see your chat, Steve. That's the only reason I kind of look at it for you because I'm not sure when you're looking at it.
Let me take a peek.
So Todd B had a great suggestion that this might be a real kick for you. He says, have you thought of sending a list to the Negro League Hall of Fame and telling them about the project? Maybe someone can indulge you with more players, or maybe fill
Oh,
out
that's
some of your
nice.
research. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's where I'll be, Todd B. As soon as I can get done with these MLEs, unless Big Clues buddy over there, Chalik gets some new. No, and I haven't gone over to look to see if they've even added some more players. Right, that's another good resource to reach out to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cando Lopez.
You are way down the rabbit hole, brother.
Oh, you're
Damn.
not kidding, man. Where is Lopez? This is a guy. Let's go search the old-fashioned way here. Here's Cando. Now, every time you do this and you pull it up this way, it never displays the right. So he's in 1927. Okay, where's Lopez at? Am I missing this guy somewhere? How come I can't see him?
And I think the Negro League
There
Hall
he
of
is.
Fame would love this. They would love this.
Here's this guy Lopez. He's got the wrong picture showing up here too. What is going on? Let me do this.
Steve, have you figured out why, like when because what we did I don't know if you know this, but we took four of your players that you've carded and we put them on the 1962 Mets. Their bios aren't coming across with them. Do you know why that is?
Um, I'm hoping to work that out with
Dave?
action. Yeah, what I've noticed
Okay.
is inside this file, if I move them and trade them or move them from team to team in this file, the bios stay intact. They're perfect. They don't get damaged at all.
Okay.
However, if I start moving them to other files, or if we were to use them as like a pool for a draft and bring them in,
Mm.
for some reason the existing note section doesn't stick. And I'd send him a note, and I haven't heard anything back from him on that. But that's something I'm hoping to have, because what would be great is if you have my file, you could release it, then set up a draft file, import them, and do kinds of fun stuff. But you'd hate it
Oh,
if the bio
absolutely.
doesn't come.
Yeah, and that was the thing. We're like looking, and I'm like, oh, we'll talk about Josh Gibson, and I looked, and there was nothing there, and I just wasn't sure if you were aware of that or not.
Yes, something I'm working through. So, oh, here we go. Now I've got the pictures going to show up. There's Cando Lopez. Speed and defense and center, played from 26 to 39, and was an all-star in 39. So this guy, I'm like, I've never heard of Cando Lopez. Got a good arm. He's a 286 hitter. He's an 8 in the left. He's an 8 in the center. So these are just some of the players that have stood out to me in the last day or so that I've been working on. That I'm like, man, there's some good quality down here, and never heard of them.
Wow.
And it makes it fun when you've got this big of a file. If we were to have a draft league, now in my brain, I'm thinking, gosh, having 20 to 24 teams really gets the depth of this file, right? I mean, if we had a 4-team league, you're going to see the typicals, right? Page and Judd
Yes.
Wilson and those. But man, having a
Yeah.
league where you got 20 to 24 of these players, where you're going 400 to 500 deep, that are getting, reps in games and coming up, and people are becoming familiar with, that would be really, really cool.
Oh, absolutely. And these guys you're talking about, like that last guy, Clarence Smith. Oof. I mean, yeah, it's begs the question of what. But again, we're not going to get Big Clue because he'll have an aneurysm about the Hall of Fame or the BBWAA, which I agree with him totally. But how did all these players get forgotten?
Oh, I know.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Look at this guy's name. Nickname is Police Car because he was so fast.
wow.
So Cando
Police car.
Lopez was a good one I did. Buddy Burbage, he's on the 1934 squad. So let's take a look
I've
at him.
heard of him. I don't know
I
a lot
had
about him, but
not.
that name I've heard.
So where the heck is Buddy Burbage?
You got to have him play Shadow Ball before a game too, because that was a big thing. Shadow Ball.
Am I just not seeing my stuff here? Buddy Burbage, 1934. No, let me find him. What a pain. This is the other thing. I've got them so spread out, it's hard for me to find. So here is, oh, you know why? 1930, Buddy Burbage. I know why. So Burbage is missing. He's 27 years old in 1934. That's what. And this is cool because it lets me see if I forgot to hit these. So here we go. And there's Buddy Burbage, outfielder, 307 hitter, left-handed batter. Sometimes that's the only facts I can dig up. The years they played, sometimes for several clubs, whoever they debuted with, and then if they had something significant like any All-Star seasons, led the league, or in this case, he did bat a little over 300 for his career. So Buddy Burbage. And another guy did that's a 1910 player. It's going to be D. Williams. This guy right here, he's a very good left field range. About a 2/3 player. You can see you can see with the pictures here. Some of them are tough, right? And
Oh
I think
yeah.
I'm up to about 4 or 5 now that I just can't find a picture for. So I've used some of the silhouette placeholders based on their main position. And then we'll see if things come available down the road. But not too bad out of 401. I think I'm only missing 4 or 5 photos. Although some of the photos are better than others. This is the best enhancement I can do right here.
It's incredible. No. Could probably use Photoshop and tart them up a bit though too. 'Cause Photoshop's very good at doing things like that. Better be
Yes.
for what it costs. So that's something we could maybe
I
look
think
at. But I mean, these cards you've done are just incredible.
Doc Dennis in 1945, I think is another one of those. It's so we've got Doc Dennis here. I did 3-time All-Star first baseman, led the league in RBIs in 46. Had never heard of this player either. Um, Not a great fielder, but had some decent hitting for a couple years. But yeah, it's been a blast. So, I mean, I've never had probably more fun doing a project as I have with this one
So cool.
because it's
You know,
complete learning rather than kind of revisiting or refreshing. It's just really complete learning the whole way through.
I think it's interesting because like so what you're learning here and what you're doing, right? So for and excluding a lot of people that come to my channel and yours, but like if you go out even and this isn't meant as an insult at all, but like if you look at like the larger baseball gaming community even in here, right? So the thing that you're experiencing is the same thing that they're experiencing when they're starting to sort of look at 1930s, 1920s,
Yeah,
1910s, 1900s baseball. I mean, because there's guys out there, right, that you know, in our community, they don't know who the hell Ken Williams was, and yet, I could ask Big Clue and I don't know if cousin Ken's in here. They're gonna know Ken Williams right away. So
yeah,
it's interesting that you, a very very knowledgeable baseball fan, and for I think for all of us, this is like all new for us because again, I here Country Brown, never heard of him,
yeah.
ever heard of him.
And here's the great thing. Look, he dies in 1937. Okay, as a result of a fight with his brother-in-law.
Oh, jeez,
Interesting characters back in that time, right? So
like
it's
the
just
guy
been
that
fun.
got hit with a bat, the guy you were
Different.
talking about a couple
He's a
weeks
different
ago.
guy. I think that was oh, that was a Cuban player that got hit with the bat at home plate, died later. But yeah, this one died with his brother-in-law. But I'd never heard of Circus Country Brown here, and just
Wow.
fun to create these. And like you mentioned, I heard I think it was Dave Gardner. He did that spider replay where he gets a kick out of some of the old seasons and just the names, right?
These are
Um,
even better.
yeah, and it's the same way. You're looking at some of the cool names, and then you can see, some of the nicknames, and then there'll even be little bios about how they got their nickname. And sometimes it's not what you think it might be. So, yeah, it's just been really fun going through and learning as I go through here. And I think what's nice is not only am I just learning as I go, but I know at the end the prize is, hey, there's a file here that the community can enjoy, right? In my brain the entire time as I go through this, I'm thinking about the draft league, right? Wow. Well, this will be fun if we have enough to have this many teams in a big league, right? Where
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
you could go deep. And then I'm like, okay, and it makes me wonder where am I going to stop with the first iteration and kind of make it available? Like, where do I stop? Is it going to be 500, 550? I don't know, right? As I
Just don't ask
logically,
MV.
well, oh yeah, well,
Don't
MV is
ask
like, hey,
MV.
wake me up when you get to 1,000 is what MV is going to say. But
Mm,
I'm just feeling like, I can look at the top 100 lists for each position and kind of cycle it by plate appearances and innings pitched and WAR. And I've been doing that, but I'm also going to get through all the build everybody that had an MLE calculation for it, right? And I'd kind of jumped around building players at the beginning because there's so many. There's no rhyme or reason. Now I'm going to really make sure I get everybody with a known MLE because they're a lot quicker. I should say a lot quicker for me to make because I'm not having to do the math to figure them
right.
out. I can grab the years and get that line and then do my other formula. So they're a little easier. I'm getting a lot quicker with just manipulating screen to screen, so I can make them a little bit faster. Um,
And I can remember when you first started this, Steve. It's like, I mean, because you were doing the usual suspects, and there was still
yeah,
that kind of right feeling your way through, right? So I mean,
yes,
because I think you were doing a video about how long it took to card a player. I'll bet you now that it's right now, right, that time has got to be at least shaved off by a third. Not
if
that you're taking too long, it's not that, but
yeah,
again, the research you're doing here a lot harder than let's say if somebody was trying to do research of teams from the 1910s because wide coverage, you really have to dig deep and how many resources that you're using to do this just to get these bios of these guys. And I noticed in Dave Cook's I bought it just because I wanted to see it and to support Dave, of course, his
yeah,
all-time top 20. Well, you have players in there that just there's just the last name. There's no first name at
yeah.
all,
And I
right?
don't think I'm going to
So,
run into that because those might be a player that maybe played one or part of a year and maybe a handful of games that he's going to card. where at least
Right.
mine, they're going to have at least 3 seasons to average. So I don't think I'm going to get down to, I don't have any plans to build anybody that just has a last name because they've probably only got literally a handful of total games played, and it's probably just in 1 year. Um, so which wouldn't kind of qualify them for a greats league. So I think I'm off the hook with that because
Right. Yeah.
at least I got first and last names. And again, I 401, and I think I'm only missing. Well, I can pull that file up and scour it here. 4, maybe 5 pictures.
You have enough for 8 full teams then. 8 full teams right now. So that's like going back to the old structure. That's an entire National League or an entire American League, whatever.
Oh
Prior
yeah.
to what 1969, I guess, or
Well,
whatever it
here's a
was.
player I just did. There, I used this silhouette for an outfielder, Doc Dudley, who I haven't built yet, but I've already got his card done. I just find a silhouette that I want to use kind of as a placeholder.
Hmm.
But I think if I scan through this library, I've done 800 and some player photos for the 401, and you can see here's Bill
Wow.
Johnson. He's a catcher, so I didn't have any photo I could find for him. And trust me, I'll spend a good 10 minutes looking, and then I move on because I got to build. Here's another one, Charlie Spearman, who was a catcher. Doc Dudley, Eppie Hamilton, a catcher. So it looks like they've pretty much been like 3 catchers, but for the most part, I mean, I've been able to find pictures. Some of them are really good, some enhance well, some are really tough. But and if I can get a couple, I like to provide a couple options here. So yeah, it looks like Bill Johnson to me. Yeah, we can get as we get closer. I'm sitting here thinking we've got enough. What is 401 average? We've got enough for what? 15 teams, probably at least 16
Well, if you
teams.
if you go, oh yeah, yeah. What am I thinking? Yeah, 16 teams. I'm saying 18. Yeah, you have enough for an
16
entire.
times 25. 16 teams of 25 men. Now, I don't know if they would technically even out because I probably need to catch up a little bit with pitcher builds.
Right.
So let me take a peek at how many pitchers total I've done. Um,
But then if you did this, like you would have enough if you normalized back to, when you could do, 3, 4 man rotations, kept it earlier. I mean, you
yep.
do have enough players.
So
Um,
here's at least 50 innings pitched pitchers, and I got 132 that can throw at least 50 innings.
oh my God.
Uh, let's look at their basic pitching. So yeah, we can just scroll it down by innings pitched. So
And
it's
and
getting us close.
specialized relievers are again like older baseball are not really a thing you have to worry about. Look at their save numbers. You had starters just like they did in early right dead ball baseball. Starters came in as quote unquote relievers. I mean,
Yeah.
really. I mean, you baseball scholars know better than I. I mean, the specialist relief pitchers wasn't even a thing until what, maybe the 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
No, and
Widely
now, I mean, it's
used. Yeah.
ridiculous.
Widely
You got
used
it.
for
You got a
sure.
dude that comes in and throws gets a lefty out, and he's done. He goes and sits down and makes more money than you and I and everybody in this chat combined.
Yeah. So so we've got quite a few. The other cool thing is I can come in here now and use this database view if I want to, let's say, just take a look at positions, right? Let's take a look at catchers. Then I could do
Always a
catchers at
commodity.
least 50 games at catcher, right? So that's significant.
Mhm.
Oh, let me get rid of basic here and just go batting. So now I'd worked on catchers because I didn't have that many, and now I'm up to, oh dear, nice one, Steve. 50 games at catcher I want. Boom. See what we got here. So now I've got 52 players that can go at least 50 games at catcher. So that's
And
been in the last week or so. I put some effort into building out some more catchers on the team.
catchers are a commodity. Always have been. I don't care what level of baseball. Catchers, right?
And let's take a look at OPS. Let's rank the
The
power
reason
here.
why they're called why what they were called the tools of ignorance.
Oh
Good
man.
to see Campy in there.
Yeah,
Campanella.
Campanella's in there. Bill Cooper, who's a recent one I've done. So yeah, I'm getting Pepper Bassett is one that I've done here recently. Getting into some of these that don't qualify for as many games, but are, I call it like that 2/3 or some halftime catchers is where I'm at now. Nish Williams, Epi Hamilton, those are some ones I've done here in the last week or so that I've learned a little bit. Chappie Johnson,
You
Rafael
know,
Figueroa.
I don't mean to sound like all maudlin and everything, but you're really doing their memories a great service by doing this and researching them and making this available so more people can learn. This is the thing I love most about what you're doing.
Oh yeah, it's
Not just that they're a game. This is like a real kind of right, a very organic kind of memorial to these great players, good
well,
players, and
you know,
whatever.
where I enjoyed it is watching MV do his broadcast. He was popping up, pulling up player cards and kind of showing them off throughout the thing. And that's when, as a spectator, I'm creating them and enjoying them. But that I've
Mhm.
watched his videos and I was like, man, I'm a spectator, and it's kind of cool as he's pulling that up and kind of giving a little bit of history of the player as he's introducing it and going through the game. I thought, yeah, it does add a nice touch because, if it's just a name, does it mean as much? I don't know if it would to me. What I've enjoyed is I see the name, then I go look at the stats, then I start examining, oh, these stats are pretty good. Then I see a face, then I start reading about them, right? And then you start putting a complete picture together. So there's more of an attachment um, than if it was just a file with names, right? And I'm just looking maybe sheerly at numbers going, hey, here's a 300 hitter, for example, hey, here's Archie Ware, here's a 300 hitter. But, if I can click on him and see a picture of him, look at him, it looks like he's doing calisthenics because my photo cut off his glove there. But then it's really cool because you can start, it adds a little bit of a flavor to it. So
Nice.
I noticed myself enjoying MV when he was doing that. And the other night, and I had to run off. I had kind of a family emergency come up, and I ran off and had to come back and watch. What a great game that was when you brought those four Negro Leaguers in to play with the Mets. I mean,
Yeah,
what a nail
that's
biter
gonna be
right down to the end.
it was, and that's gonna be a it's I'm not gonna be playing every game like out on, as a broadcast, but we're gonna do like a couple games and then sim like 20 of them
Oh,
and
that'd
then
be
do a
great to see
couple
how
sim.
they would stat up for the whole season
Exactly,
with that team.
exactly. I guarantee they're not gonna finish last. It's just not gonna. There's no way.
No,
Just with those four players, what an impact they're gonna make. Provided nobody gets injuries, because I do have injuries turned on. So
yeah. So I'm just scrolling now where this is another reason why I love the game Dave's game here is I can come down here and just say, let me look at major shortstops here. So here's at least 50 games played at short. I got 36 players that can play at least 56 games. So I've kind of bounced around and done some. Oh, here's Pelayo Chacon right here.
see what Big Clue has to say here, which he's right. He says Steve is bringing it home for these guys, much like Tops used to do for us with baseball cards as kids. He's personalizing these players. We talk about that. Talk about Big Clue hitting one out of the park. He's absolutely right.
Yeah, it's just it just I've enjoyed it building it right, but it wasn't until the other day when I was actually a spectator watching, and it was like MV was almost teaching me about players I
Mm-hmm.
had built, and then I was reminded, oh yeah, I remember that um, stat or that little snippet of information about that guy. So um, I'm glad I did it at the beginning because I thought, hey, if I'm going to approach this, sometimes I'll build a whole file and then think, man, I want to do pictures, but I've just taken the approach is I don't move on to the next player until everything's done with that player, right? I get a picture, the stats are in, they're built into the game, and then I go back to the notes and add the bio, then I move on. So I'm kind of holding myself to that format versus sometimes I might just get on a whim and just crank out 20 player stats, right? And then build them. And then my fear is I won't go back and go get the pictures and all that good stuff. So, and now I'm trying to figure, okay, how can I start carving them out and assemble them so that when uh, there's play testing going on, it'd be easy to grab like the 30 to 36 team, and there's going to be enough to play against others, right? I think
Right.
when I sent them out to you and MV and to Arnold to play with, there were just 40 people got shoved on the 1920s team, and then another 40, and then I split them up in half decades, and So I've just been kind of using them as placeholders, not really set up to run as a file to play team against team. So
Mhm.
hopefully I can get it in a better state and then send out another beta test file for everybody to um, play with like
Would
that.
love to. And that's what I've been holding off because, as you know, I mean, you said go ahead and show it off, but I've been holding off because this has been your work. And so I just think it's, I didn't want to just like, okay, guys, we're going to just do this but I had to take the liberty on those four players
Oh,
just because I think it's going to be and in a way, maybe in a way to a mini test to see how that's going to work. And that game against I mean, because the Reds finished third that year, that was a pretty tough Reds team, and that was a tight game down the line. And you could feel their you could feel their impact. And one game is certainly not a control, but I think it's going to be fun, and it might be a little test for you then to see how they do too
yep.
as you're going along. We can say, hey, look, geez, the Mets are in fourth place, and it's
Oh,
two
yeah.
thirds of the way through the season.
And it just gives me a chance to. I just love seeing how they play because right, it's like you can't do it all, right? And then I feel neglectful if I go over to start playing some games. I'm like, man, I could have cranked out 3 or 4 players in the time it
Yep.
took me to have some fun with it. So it's always a balance of do I stop and enjoy it a little bit, or hey, I could be building more because MV's got
Nice.
me on a. It's like he's that sitting on my shoulder all the time. Steve, you could have done 3 or 4 more. So
You know why that is? He's a Brit, and the Brits are like that.
oh yeah,
The Irish, we would be like, let's just have a Guinness, mate. But the Brits, they're all about like he's like a headmaster, a British like school headmaster, right?
yes.
Make American principals look like nothing. I mean, yeah. So MV is our headmaster, right?
This is a cool view I'm looking at right now. I've just gone and looked at fielding ratings because I'm not trying. I haven't tried to weight them, right? I haven't come and done any bell curving at all with this, and I may come back and look at the file and try to differentiate something. This is just on me rating it based on how I rate players and then how I'm looking at the ratings and different sources. And it's interesting. I've got 4 people rated tens in right field, 3 9s, and a bunch of 8s, right? Then you can see as we scroll down 6s and 5s and 4s. Um, and then in center field, I've only got 1 10, left field 1, shortstop 1, third base 3, second base 4, none at first or catcher yet. So this may not be interesting to anybody else, but it is to me because I haven't gone back and just kind of looked at how they've been stacking up. Pitcher, how they field their position here.
V's asking a good question here, Steve. If you want to
Who's
look
that?
in the chat.
MV.
Yeah, great question he asked for you.
Oh, I haven't even been looking at this. I had to scroll
Yeah,
down the chat. I'm glad you're paying attention. Let's see.
I am.
Eddie Klepp. I have not.
No, no, further down. He asks you which have surprised you more, the hitters or pitchers in comparison to Major League Baseball?
Um,
So in other words, like the Negro play, right? Like what have you found more like in terms of just straight up? I mean, in comparison to Major League players,
I think
great pitchers or hitters or what?
I think it's the lack of raw power numbers because not just kind of the style played a little bit into it, but the ballparks. So everything I've read on that, they're playing in very pitcher-friendly parks, right? Not home run type parks. So I think that's the one
Right.
thing that surprised me. If you went decade by decade, 20s into the 30s and the 40s when home run starts really racking up, the home
Right.
run rates are significantly lower.
Well, I know you're right. I mean, because a lot of the so some of the Negro League teams that got to play in Major League parks were pitcher-friendly parks, like Forbes Field, you know, and Yankee Stadium, especially unfriendly to right-handed hitters.
Yep.
So that kind of makes sense.
Now
Big
you're going to
ballparks.
see similarity. You will see home run numbers fairly similar, I would say. Now they're going to pop up style wise, like in the 20s. So you'll see like in the per 1,000 at bats, you're going to see teams 14. Let me think here. Now, probably around 1921 ish, you're going to start see things go to double digits the first time. So you're going to see anywhere from 10 to 11 to 12%
You said you
or I
saw
say
a drop in
1.2%.
steals, right?
What's
So
that?
they were kind of didn't you? I think you said like it was a month ago or so when we were together talking on here. You said you saw a drop in steals, which kind of coincided with what was going on in that time in the
Oh
late
yeah.
major leagues.
In the teens, you're going to see home run percentages around 5 to 6%. Okay,
Right.
or out of 1,000, I should say 5 out of 1,000. Um, and you're going to see stolen bases in the lower 30s. Okay, then you're going to see that go from fives and sixes up to 12s and 13s, and then the stolen bases come down in between, like anywhere from 17 to 20. So really
Still
significant in the style of
significant
baseball in the
drop. But
20s.
what's interesting though is that I think unlike the major leagues, and again, it would be thank God the Negro leagues are done and everything's integrated, but I still always got the sense, and of course you've done so much more research, but I've got more sense. I get a sense that speed, that the Negro leagues were this beautiful combination of Powerball as you get into the 20s and 30s. They still would maintain. I mean, look at Jackie Robinson as a perfect case. Jackie stole home. Jackie
Yep.
could unnerve pitchers and steal himself a run, and they still manufactured runs and adopted the long ball, which I think weight major leagues kind of went the other way because if you look at stolen base totals 30s and 40s in the weight major leagues, there's probably more of a precipitous drop, I think, than you would see in the Negro leagues. This is just a guess.
Yes. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at an interesting stat right here. Here's one thing that stands out for this file. The the Negro Leagues had a higher strikeout rate, okay, and a higher walk rate than the major leagues.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So it makes you wonder. I mean, umpires have a big impact on how they're calling. Where the strike zone is, what they're doing. So there's no doubt that there was a difference to some degree in the balls and strikes and how it was called. But it's definitely something that you can see when you look at all the numbers. Is that strikeout percentage high and walk percentage a little bit higher, just a little bit higher. But you can see a lot in the 20s. You got about 80 um, strikeouts per 1,000 at bats, and at the same time frame in the 20s, you're going to have probably average of around 116 uh, strikeouts in the Negro leagues. So walks are probably maybe about 5% higher, but strikeouts significantly. They were free swinging, right?
Right.
Um, and the batting averages are, you could see down here, they're probably averaging in the 20s and high 280s for the National League, and over in the Negro League, same time frame, it would be probably about 275. So there's probably anywhere from an 8 to 11 point difference depending on the year throughout there, right? So, people are whiffing a little more, so the hits are down. Um, but yeah, so it's a little bit different kind of in the style. That's just something that stood out. I find that stuff interesting too when I start
For
looking
sure.
at all these numbers. But
I like Big Clue's comment that's, I mean, germane to this, right? He says Major League Baseball 1920 to integration gradually, and he's right, developed a fairly stale station to station brand of baseball, most exemplified in the 40s and 50s.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, 50s baseball, there wasn't a lot of speed in 50s baseball at all.
Now we've limited, so these players, because they've been toned over to a major league equivalent, let's take a look. So you'll look at stolen bases where they might have 30. Let's say
Mhm.
through the 10s and 20s, they might average about 30, um, 32 stolen bases per 1,000, right? And the major league is probably going to be just a little bit less. That might be averaging around 23-ish or something like that. And you can kind of see it gets less and less in the Negro leagues too, into the 30s and 40s, just like it does in baseball, but it still stays a click higher, right? Like
Right.
like another 20% higher, even though theirs trends down as it goes towards the 40s as well. Still more stealing going on in the
Mhm.
Negro leagues too. So,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah,
Definitely. And
just a
again,
little.
how Robinson could unnerve pitchers, and you watch game clips of him, and you could see the pitcher. you can see he's rattled. I mean, Robinson skittering and this and that, and Jackie would just go on anything. It was like he had the green light to steal all the time, and so many Negro League players said what Jackie did was brought our baseball to the major leagues. But I like the fact that they are this beautiful combination of power and speed, even though the steals dropped, the long ball went up. It seems to me that, and I could be wrong, Steve. I mean, you and MV are really kind of the authorities on this, but it seems to me, again, that the Negro League baseball wasn't just. So we look at look at baseball now, even integrated baseball now in the 21st century. It's the emphasis is still more on the long ball, way
Oh
more on
yeah.
the long ball. You know, I mean, where they had this. I just think it was just this great combination of okay, we're going to get runs, whether it's the long ball or we're going to play small ball. I like that.
Well, I've got to roll out here in about 3 or 4
Dude,
minutes. So,
seriously?
oh yeah, I've got some stuff to tend to here.
Got you, man.
And
Gotcha.
but I know you'll probably be firing up a game or something. But what I'm going to send you right
Okay.
now is I think I have the Beatles. What's the newest one here? I'm gonna call it the 401 file. That's on your way.
All right. Well, maybe I'll take one of the teams and um, play them against one of these teams that I've been. This Ned McGreevy All Star Game thing has actually turned into a league of its own, and maybe just play them. Maybe just do a broadcast. These guys are into it, just to play one, and
Yeah,
it'd be like so cool to do a simulcast sometime too if MV is up to it or whatever. I know it's late for him, but to have like somebody calling the cards and stuff like that, and I think it'd be fun.
you got it. So what I'm gonna do is, and I'll send you my the updated photos to go with it. Because what good is it without
Okay.
those?
Well, it's sheer crap, Steve. Might as well forget
It's
it.
just
it's
junk. Yeah, no, I
it's
would be
just
messing
junk,
with it.
man. So yeah, thank you, and Arnold Hunter saying thank you, and we're absolutely chuffed to be kind of beta testing this. Yeah, we really are. So I'm doing stuff offline with it, but I've been reticent about doing it online because this is your.
Mm.
If it was Dave Cook stuff, I don't care, but this is yours. It's a little different. So it's been respect. That's why I haven't been doing anything with them right now online.
It is not. Well, I got you the file. It's not letting me send this. I'll have to figure out another way to get it for you. But you got the file to mess with at least, and it's in that new format
Okay.
where I started carving things up. So you might have to, find a team you like, or you know what it's like, manipulate it
Yeah,
around a little bit to put a team together. But I have
absolutely.
noticed if you move or trade players on that file, the notes or
Mhm.
the bios stick with them. It's only when
Okay.
you start creating a new file and importing that it seems to disappear. So I never heard back from headquarters on that. So I will follow up with them because that was something I was hoping to have figured out and
So what I
solved.
could then what I could do with this file is bring in one of these teams into that temporarily, right, to play like an exhibition or
Oh
something
yeah,
rather than
you betcha.
pulling a Pro League team into this. And I'm putting it in my screen like you can see it,
But
but you know
look
what I
right
mean.
here. I mean, here's the 27 to 29. It has 48 players on it, even though it's only broken down into 3 years. There's so many players from 27, 28, 29 right here.
Clue says, "I see this wall of photos and I'm hypnotized." You could probably do a whole stream just showing off the photos, the cards you've made, and everybody in here would just be entranced. Seriously,
Yeah, I'm glad everybody
you
likes them. That's been, I mean,
you brought them back to life, man.
I love the doing the photos, and it's sad when I can't find an actual player and I have to put the little silhouette thing in there. But hey, it is what it is. So, and I got to move on. But yeah, you can see I've got
Sure.
placeholders. This isn't the most organized, but hey, there's 401 players to have fun with Beatles, and you always have permission to
All right.
do whatever the heck you want to with those files to show them off, play it, get everybody pumped up for the league that's going to be. Just getting more people in tune to the whole project is very welcomed.
Absolutely. hopefully we can get some of the folks out and the rest of the community that just, that for them baseball doesn't exist before the 1980s. Maybe this will give them some impetus to kind of
You know what? Let's wait for MLB The
open.
Show to launch and some just 10 players
Oh,
get
that,
focused, and
yeah,
then maybe more people will be interested to go beyond those 10, is what I would say,
I hope so.
hopefully.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well, I'm gonna leave, and MV loves my abrupt, "Hey, we'll see you," and then click. The other night he did one and shut himself off before he finished. So MV actually wins the award for most abrupt ending to a broadcast.
That means he can't pick on you anymore
No,
for what was the call you made that night? 2 balls and 3 strikes.
yeah, the 2 ball 3 strike count,
Oh,
and we're
yeah,
still
so we
throwing them.
can't pick on you now, right? Yep.
Yeah. But
All right.
MV, I don't know if he was trying to be funny or he hit the button too quick, but he made the abrupt end. So,
He's
um,
he's a Brit. Just anything MV does, he's a Brit.
oh
That's the
yeah.
way it is. Yeah. But
Um,
MV, I love you, but you're a Brit.
you know what I may do, Big
So,
Clue? I may put together. It'd be cool to have a screensaver that's like a collage, maybe of all those photos when they're done. Um,
oh man.
you know what I mean? Like to create like a collage or a screensaver of them.
Oh, that would be insane.
Anyway, we'll look to see. But hey, it's been great, everybody. I've got to go run and tend to some other
Thank you,
chores,
man.
but we will see you down the road. And hey, pop on over. I know Beatles will be doing something.